This one take never happened before. This was some 15-20 pages of a scene. It was a book. So I designed a set with 50 tents and watchtowers and things like that. Because this scene starts from the drone, it establishes the whole military base, and then it goes down and it goes from behind the tent. It crosses 20 tents and it goes at one place where coach is there, and the actors go join him. They have a conversation. So there's a circular trolley. So
Yeah.
this Steadicam guy was on the drone, then cut to he sits on a buggy. So half the time he was on a buggy, then half the time he's running towards them, going back, and at the same time all the blasts are happening.
How did you start working with the director on in previous films? Because I know you have sort of worked with him over time, Kabir Khan.
Right.
So what was the journey like on that? How did that start initially?
Okay, so it was, I think, almost around 20 years back when Kabir came to Bombay from Delhi.
Mm.
He was working with some production houses over here, and we have associated together on one game show. I think it's for Zoom television. So there was this channel of Times of India. It's called Zoom, and he was doing a
Mm.
show on that. So I worked on that with him, and that was my first meeting with him. So we have worked quite like around a month on that thing, and that thing went well. So we worked on another, and then we parted away. This was around 20 years back, probably, because I was doing some advertisement and he was writing a script, etc., etc. So he got busy in that, and I got busy in, of course, my work. And then I think after 4 or 5 years, he called me for Kabul. That was his first first movie, and
Kabul Express, right? I think it was called
Kabul
Kabul
Express, yeah,
Express.
Kabul
Yeah,
Express.
yeah, yeah.
So that was his first movie, but I was busy with lot of other things. So it took us almost another 4 or 5 years to work together, and we worked on a Bajrangi Bhaijaan. So that was my first film with Kabir on
Mm.
Bajrangi Bhaijaan. So what can I tell you about him? I think he's one of the best directors. Like it's not only about telling a story or directing a movie. It starts with your persona, your knowledge, your information, your personality. So I think that catches more. You work with the person for what he wants, to match the
Mm.
frequency length, or we can call it a wavelength. So that was more important, to be, what exactly he wants, to understand person basically. Because any script you give, and I'll put up a set or I'll design a set, but it's not about that. It's about how aptly you design a sets or design a background for a particular person according to his taste or according to his storytelling. So I think he's a bank of knowledge. So wherever you go, he has lots of things to say. He has lots of experience. He was a documentary maker, and he's a good photographer also. So he
Yeah.
knows things. He knows things well. So he reads well. So he understands well. So I have studied architecture from JJ College of Architecture. So I
Mm.
have that technical information about design, etc., which he understands very easily. So it becomes very easy to share notes, talk about the scene or about the look or authenticity, all those things. So it was a great journey. Then Bajrangi Bhaijaan, Tube Light, Forgotten Army, 83, and then this Chandu Champion.
That's great. No, there's very few directors in India who I really admire consistently. And I said this to Sudeep as well, with Vinod Chopra, Sanjay
Right.
Bansali, Raj Kumar Hirani. Kabir is one of them for sure. And I relate more to Kabir because my background, even though it was never supposed to be like that, started in documentary filmmaking as well.
Yeah.
So I completely understand I can see that in the films that he's done. There's always this element of journalist. There's always this element of, trying to get the facts right, like, because that's what a documentary filmmaker That's what
Yes,
a regular filmmaker should do too. But with
yeah.
documentary, it's a little bit different, right? But yeah, he did. I didn't know anything about Chandu Champion, even the story itself. Like I didn't, never heard of it, and I think a lot of people probably never knew.
Yeah.
How did you know before coming on to this film that there was such an individual that existed?
No, 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 I didn't. I didn't. I got to know about him like 2, 3 years back. All these years I've been working with Kabir. So one day he was talking about that he's interested. There is a chap called Murlikant Petkar. He stays in
Yeah.
Maharashtra. I am a Maharashtrian. I have been
Okay.
staying around, and I have no idea about. I had no idea about Murlikant Petkar. Uh, so that was first time Kabir told me about him, and I got really interested. And his story is very interesting. It's not a normal sportsman, you know. He was into he comes from a village, then went to army, military, then the war, then boxing, and he like plays 2, 3 games like akhada, so wrestling, boxing, and then swimming. And there are lots of turns in his life. So it's like a uh, roller coaster ride. His life, we can call it, and very
Yeah.
inspirational on
Yeah.
each and every moment. So it's actually inspiration for kids, and for everyone. So yeah,
I think it's inspiration for everyone because one of the things I loved about the story, because normally you have a story like a boy wants to be a cricketer, a boy wants to be an entrepreneur. Like you just see his path kind of unveiling to that one goal. His
right.
his goal was just getting a gold medal, right, at Olympics. But the way his story pivots, right, from that's not like a lot of people when they if he a lot of people if he had gone if somebody else had gone to the army, his life may have stayed in the army and that's it. He would have sort of given up, or one after that. But he just kept going, and especially his coach, Ali, I forget the gentleman who plays that. He's an amazing actor.
Vijay Raj.
Yes, yeah, he became a great catalyst, especially
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
go to see that fight in the wrestling ring, and how he tells him that he's 40, and that's I think a message for older people too. That a lot of people think when they're in their 40s and 50s, life is over. What's the
right,
point? Like.
right,
But
right.
he didn't give up, and despite his condition, I thought it was such an amazing story, and it's so
Yeah,
good to see amazing stuff coming out that is based on true stories now in India, because those are the things that people need to look up to, like their history and where people have gone through and what they've achieved.
that's right. And in the story, there is a dialogue like in Murlikant's life, he tries go achieve something and he fails. You know, like he tries to achieve in boxing, but he fails there. So there are a lot of moments like that. He wants to do something, but he couldn't. So Vijay Raj, his coach, tells him that champion girta hai par harta nahi. So
Yeah,
that was a very catchy dialogue, and it's very relevant to our lives also, that this like failure is okay, but you should try, even in
yeah,
Rajkumar Hirani's film you have things like that. So with Rajkumar Hirani I worked on PK and Three Idiots mainly. so
yeah,
it depends how enjoyable your profession is. It depends on your directors, it depends on your colleagues, how knowledgeable they are, or what they have to offer, how they are from inside outside. You can actually read them, So
yeah.
that's the entertaining part of it. Apart from your creative satisfaction, these are the things which matters, really matters.
100%. And then in that same scene, there's a longer line which I probably can't translate properly in English, but the gist of it was, you know, the only person that you shouldn't be listening into is that your inner voice that's telling you
Right.
not to do it. And I think in all of our lives, that's really the problem. It's never the outside forces as crazy as they are, it's always not believing in ourselves. And I think that
Right.
is so pivotal in everybody's life. But going on to your work in the film,
Right.
right? A period piece, that starts off in the 50s and goes all the way to the 70s, and then obviously 2000, 17, 18 time.
Right.
What was obviously that's a challenge, but challenges excite creative people. You
Right,
know, you
right.
want to do something different. What was one of the most where did you draw inspiration from? Was there a specific movie that you saw, or was it books, or was it just research? Like any kind of particular inspiration that you drew from to create the wonderful world of Chandu Champion?
Right. Actually, it can be a summary of last 20 years or what I have studied. In architecture, we have studied history of architecture. So you read Taj Mahal, and then there was something called as humanity, which is the most mm, interesting subject. In humanity, you read, or you read about people, their migration, their culture. So in designing, more than pencil and a paper and a eraser, yeah, you need to understand the culture to design a piece of set or a space. So it's about culture. So when and in culture, it's a vast thing, it's not a small thing. So in culture, there is a language, there is food, there is habitat, there are houses. Architecture is just one part of that. You have fields, you have types of crops, you have festivals, you have lot many things. You have vernacular architecture, or different kind of architectures. How the house is going to be in Maharashtra. Now Maharashtra is on the seaface, on hilly region, inside the jungles. So there are kind of places. So about the inspiration, see, the story inspires you basically. Okay, so when the
Mm,
story inspires and when you read, then you get into you do a research. So any film, it starts with the research. You read the script, you chalk out the locations. Okay, these are the locations, and this is how the village is going to be. So then you study about the villages. Okay. So I'll just give you the example then, doing all
sure.
these things. In 1950s, the area where Murlikant Petkar comes from, that is Western Maharashtra, the lot of wrestling happens there. And lot of people
Mm,
from there goes to the army. There are some villages which are very famous about that. So Murlikant is not from that village, but in 1950s or 1940s, everyone used to wear white clothes in villages. you know so you when you make so that thing interests you, because when you make a palette, there will be a red mud, then there will be a yellow grass, and then there will be a white costumes, white wears, everyone is wearing. So I have seen this picture some 20 years back in one of the magazine, maybe Dharma Yuga or something. This magazine used to come at that time, where there is a wrestling akhada. This wrestling ring, we call it akhada, and there was this red mud, two wrestlers, and everything white, and the mountains were. So I'm carrying that image in my mind, generally carrying. I don't know where it is going to end. I think it got a very good end in terms of Chandu Champion, where I executed that whole thing. So it was not an inspiration, but it was always there in my mind that something like that, this I like. It can be a food also, or it can be something else also, but then it happened to be the same thing. So you get the color palettes and things from there. So if you see the Akada scene, you don't see much there. You just see a ring and people standing. There is no set designing. There are no sets erected. Yeah, there is one stage on one side, but you don't see anything built or executed. Like a big production. Only this people and wrestler and a one ring. That was the production design behind all this, and this was the all this visual, and this was the taking takeoff point for his life also. So when people go back home, they remember that. They don't remember wrestling, but that palette in their mind, like a dream, or like a print. It gets printed. So so that's how everything comes. Like, I've done many films with Kabir. He always do war films, and they're always periods, so research is always there. But then it's pan India research. You have to concentrate, come to one place, and uh, do these things. So there are a lot of things. We have found a village here in near Bombay. It's called Vai. So
mm.
we shot a lot of stuff there because it has got same contouring, same mountain as of where this guy come from, Mr. Murlikant Petkar.
It's interesting you mentioned the white and that image that you've had for a while. If I right now in this moment think about the movie,
Mm.
4 to 5 things pop in my head. right? And one of them is that aerial shot of um, people standing in white, and you see the landscape, in the
Right.
distant, and it's a beautiful scene, not necessarily because of the landscape, as amazing as that is, but those people in white that really pulls you in a very interesting way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask you about that. So that is a beautifully designed and very simple, like you said. Like you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
had a
yeah.
stage that you had to build. The other thing that I was really impressed by, obviously, so I'll be talking to Sudeep about this too, but you have a big hand in it too, is the boxing ring
Yeah.
and the crowd around it and everything. Talk to me about that. I mean, that I haven't seen that in Indian cinema, to my knowledge, in that capacity. I could be wrong, but please do talk about that.
Yeah, the boxing ring. So, uh, see, here you need to know, not you need to know, but one need to know what is the focal point of the whole thing
Mm,
because people are going to see that only, you know. So in the stadium, you will have 30,000 people. Then you have different flags. You'll have banners. You have journalists or people with the cameras on one side. So a lot of flash guns, etc. So that is the general picture. Then referee sitting on one side and some um, colleague players will be sitting on other side. So you get this 7, 8 kind of different visuals. The stadium walls, people, referees, flags, banners, journalists, cameras, all those things. But our main focal point was Murlikant Petkar and his opponent and his coach standing next to it. That was the
mm,
only visual was in our mind, and even I told that to Sudeep also, and that is where we wanted to concentrate. That is the only area, you know. So we built this set in a film city. So we just built a boxing ring, and we had this sloping, steps on all the sides. Basically, we have the sloping slabs only on one side. We did the VFX for the other this thing because that much of interior place is not available in Bombay at least, that big studio, because the stadium
mm.
is too big. And our main focus was the boxing ring and the lighting above that and the character inside. So that was only our visual. So Sudeep has done a fantastic job on that, in fact. It is more of a
Mm.
Sudeep's work than mine. You know, I made everything simple probably, by just giving A, B, and C. But Sudeep got that whole thing into a life, and then we had few shots on the same ring, which he comes to his mind while he's swimming, the last bit of his swimming, his
Mm.
life goes in front of him while swimming, and all those shots are taken on that boxing ring. So it's
That
a
was really
good,
well done. I thought the
yeah.
flashbacks, that was really beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
um, but yeah, no, I mean it's a collaborative effort, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's on the films that everybody's goal is to make a great movie. And sometimes that doesn't happen, for whatever reason. But nobody goes out to make a bad movie. Everybody wants to make an amazing movie. But it shows the collaborative. You can tell in a movie or at a company or at a business that things are coming from heart of a team, and it shows that in this film too. Every single frame is consists of costume, consists of set design, consists of lighting, consists of performances. Is You could tell there was a lot of heart in it. Everybody did a phenomenal job, and which takes me to the next scene, which is again more of a Sudeep question, but at the same time, you had a lot to do with it. Was the long take of the
War sequence.
1965 the war sequence?
Yeah, yeah.
I had read somewhere that's like one take, but when it started, like, and the aerial came in and the camera kind of kept consistent.
Mm.
But for you had to obviously design everything around, like, the tents and everything, and to be able to make sure that, because Kabir's vision was, from the beginning, that we want to do this in one take or two takes, because there's some cuts when the dust comes up and everything. How was that challenging for you? Had you ever done anything like that before? That, because if something goes wrong, you have to do it. You can only do it once.
Right,
Because
right.
if something goes wrong, then the budget kind of kicks in, time kicks in.
Yeah, yeah.
Had you done anything like that before, and what was the challenge in doing so? Were you nervous?
Um, I was not nervous because it was exciting. So if it is exciting, then you don't get
Yeah,
nervous. You just keep working towards it.
good
So
answer.
this one take never happened before. I did that one take thing before for for Agent Vinod.
Okay.
There was this song and there was one action sequence. So we did that in Agent Vino. So that was some 10, 12 years back. So I did that. But this was entirely different. That was a restaurant, corridor, hotel, that kind of a thing. And a very small space. Like this place was 1 kilometer. That was some probably 3,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet. You know, yeah, Shriram has done that. He was the director of mm, Agent Vinod, Shriram Raghavan.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
did that over there. So in this case, it started with that. This is the kind of a scene, and there are. It was not the one scene is generally of 2 pages or 3 pages. This was some 15, 20 pages of a scene. You know, it was a book because all the scenes or every movement is come together in some pages, right? So it was a 20, 25 page thing. So Kabir, of course, he has explained us how it's going to be. So I designed a set with 50 tents and watchtowers and things like that. And I started explaining him that this is how you should do, But of course, that's not the way how I will tell him, right? It's the way he wants to
Yeah.
do or he has conceived
Of
it.
course.
So okay, so I made a floor plan, everything. We made a model also. And then Sudeep was there, Kabir was there, other people were there. Then while looking at the model, we understood, okay, so these things are possible and these things are not possible. Okay. So let's say there are 100 things to be shot. After making the model, we realize that 50 things are possible and the other 50 things are not possible, but we can do it by changing the way of it, so we have to work on that. So it you can't make it on a full, paper and show it. So we made a model which is a movable model. You can move the tents, you can move the machine gun area, you can move the watchtowers, etc. So we sat on a big table, big four dining tables together, made a big model, and we started shooting that with the mobiles and other camera, how the action is going to be. And we did all that, and then again after 15, 20 days I came up with the uh, proper model, how this is how we are going to shoot. Okay, then again there were changes. So there were 2 3 meetings, 3 4 meetings, and lot of designs we made on that and the models. So it was like that. But then there were some scenes where the watchtower collapses. Now in
Mm.
one take camera you see everything, so you have to hide people also. You
Yeah.
have to take extras on the one side. So that was another challenge. Shooting is fine, but now you have to manage the whole area, right? Because this scene starts from the drone, it establishes the whole uh, military base, and then it goes down and it goes from behind the tents. It's crosses 20 tents and it goes at one place where coach is there, and the actors go join him. They have a conversation. So there's a circular trolley. So
Yeah.
this Steadicam guy was on the drone, then cut to he sits on a buggy. So half the time he was on a buggy, then half the time he's running towards them, going back, and at the same time all the blasts are happening. So there were a lot of mm, department working together, like everything writing on the paper and doing stuff. That you should not go. The blast has to happen, right? If it doesn't happen, everything you have to do it again. So in this case, as I told you, we have built the things. See, we didn't have a lot of budget, like a big movie star budget. We had 50 tents. We had to manage in that. But when you're going from one side, you see tents. But now on the other side, when you go, there are no tents. So by the time camera goes there, some people have to pull this tent, take
Oh,
this
really?
and go to that place and put the tent there. And the camera will go from within the uh, underneath the tent and reveal something. So there were a lot of not challenges but interesting things. Of course, there was a pressure because of the number of days you shoot in Kashmir,
Yeah.
sunlight, shadows, clouds, etc., etc. So a lot of other stuff was there. A lot of blast was there, so the connection has to happen properly. Otherwise, the blast won't happen. You know. And at one point, we had to. There is a plane comes in, and it struck the watchtower, and the watchtower falls down. So So we made a separate model for the watchtower, and because there is a bunker next to it where all the characters go and sneak
Mm.
inside, and the watchtower falls on top of that. So they should not get injured. So that whole bunker was made out of metal, and we covered that with metal. So when the people were inside, it should protect them, right? So that bunker was a completely metal made bunker. And
Wow.
over there we that this thing also, like, this has to fall properly like this. So you have to
Right.
cut the we have to give pre-cuts to the columns of the watchtower, you know on a clip, and then some people have to at one point remove the clip, and someone has to pull it from down here. So there were 20 people with the ropes, etc., standing there. So that one cut, I was, ordering my people. Someone was ordering their action people. Someone was ordering SFX. So there were plenty of directors, you know, directing one scene, and Kabir was sitting there in the stress that everything should go correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the thing. Now those people who are pulling the watchtower should not come in the frame. So all these things were happening together. But we did it, like, we did it. Actually, we celebrated on that evening when we finished that shot. That it was like us, oh, we had done the film now.
No,
So
it was an amazing shot because I remember I watched it yesterday, and I was when the
okay,
aerial shot started, right? And it comes down,
mhm,
and as soon as and I'm thinking in my head, is this going to be like, are they going to take off the camera from the drone and then go on a dolly or a steady cam?
mhm.
And when that happened, I was like, okay, this is going to be a long take because you don't do that unless it's going to be a
Exactly.
long take.
Yeah, yeah.
But the best thing I liked about it, and that's where your work kicks in, is that when the camera goes 360 around the three characters,
Right,
as a production designer, like you want to make sure that everything, because everything will come in the shot, even though the
yeah,
camera
yeah.
is moving really fast.
Right,
Like you have to make sure everything is to the detail. So that speaks a lot about your team and your work, and obviously everybody in the crew. Uh, yeah, I absolutely loved, and it was not as a gimmick that it was done. It worked because in war or in a sequence like that, you have to keep the audience intact, and if you
right, right.
cut,
Mhm.
you're gone, right? So it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. So how many days were you in Kashmir for?
We did a lot of prep in Bombay. We have got all those tents, everything made, and we have sent some 10 trucks from here, around 10, 11 trucks from here to Kashmir with the set material. And we built it there. We took 8 to 9 days, almost 10, 12 days to build the set over there. Because again, you build the set and you do the practice. We would practice also to 3 days with the camera and everything, because everything has to go perfect. So actually doing that shot was a different project, and doing the rest of the film was a different project.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, that itself is a film. Like you can just, a short
Right,
film like
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't even need to have everything around it. If it was just really well executed. And I thought so. This
So
is
in Pahalgam,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, in Pahalgam there is a place, from Pahalgam there is a place which is around 20 kilometers called Aru, and
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of meadows. But those meadows are like around 300 feet high. So every day morning you have to go there, you have to walk up there, and then you do your stuff. Once you go up, you can't come down. You can't come down for a food or anything. You can, but then who wants to come down and again
Yeah, and
uh,
go back up.
go back, climb up there? So we used to cook our food over there only, make some Maggie, make some khichdi, and have it. So
That that's
that's
really
the fun actually.
that's a really cool experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Um, the the finale sequence, the swimming pool.
Right.
Was that where was that shot? First of all, was that in India or outside
That was we shot that in London.
London? Okay.
There is a structure made by Zaha Hadid. It was made for last sports games, I think. I don't remember exactly. The place is called Aquatica or something. And we have shot there. So we shot there for 4 or 5 days. We made certain things for that. So it's a beautiful Olympic level swimming pool. But we did some close-up shot, etc. in Bombay, some patchwork. But
Right,
primarily we
right,
shot.
right. So, that's a building by itself. It's already like a arena. There's a swimming pool. There's people sitting there. How does your work get in there in terms of the details when something is already there? Like if you can just sort of educate people, like how did you what did you do in that scene that made the scene as it is from a production designer standpoint? I'm not saying you didn't
Right.
do anything. I'm just saying that I just want to know. That's all.
Right. So, no, in this case, there was not much of a work,
Okay.
what, because you can't change the structure, you can't change the water. It's mainly with the
Yeah.
water and the character. So, over there, we generally make signages, stuff like that. We have made some bleachers because where the swimming pool was, if you take a shot from there, the bleachers were far away and at the top. Okay, so you
Mm.
don't really see that, and in 50s and 60s, not 50s and 60s, but around 70s, this was supposed to be in Heidelberg, Germany. So
Yep.
the people sits very close to the swimming pool arena, swimming pool. Okay, so here that distance was too much because nowadays here different design has come up, and it's a international design, and they can see or whatever by giving different heights and all. So near the swimming pool, we built some bleachers, like around 100 feet, and we make people sit on those bleachers. So in short, you see a guy swimming, and you see the people at the back. Otherwise, what you'll see the wall, at the back. The
Mm.
people are sitting on top of the wall. So there were those things, and then you add some banners to show that it's a Heidelberg Munich 1972 Olympics, Paralympics. So you add those elements like small. We just dress up the place basically.
Mm.
So to give that flavor of that era, we just add few things. So there is a jumping box. So you change that, and then you put that winning box. Stuff like that. So small elements makes it takes you back to the period.
Right. Which you mentioned Munich, because when that scene came up, Munich 1972 Olympics, the first thing that came to my mind was there's a film called Munich. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that I had a feeling that's where it was gonna go, but I didn't know that actually happened during that time when he was on the,
Oh, okay, okay.
wheelchair. So that was
Right,
that was interesting because I mean, not a lot of people know about that, and
right.
especially in the context of what's going on in the world right now.
Hmm.
I thought that was quite interesting, but yeah, uh, when the film ended, I was just, you're just gonna sit there trying to figure out what did you just see, right? And in my head, I'm trying to understand, does this film, because it's different. It's not like your typical, there's a structure to a certain film. But this structure was a little bit different, and
Right,
because it was the way his story was, because it went from here to there to there, and to be able to put that together in a cohesive way is a very challenging thing. Um, I really, I think if one word comes to my mind, and I'm not trying to draw comparisons because it's not in any way a comparison. It felt to me, I saw Forrest Gump when it came out 30 years ago. And that feeling that I had at the end of Forrest Gump, where a character goes through a certain amount of history, I mean,
right.
it was made up, but in this case, it was actually true. And how he goes
True.
through a certain amount of, history. So it
Right,
was a
right,
really
right.
cool feeling. I just wanted to share that. I thought it was really well done. It was really well done, and I'm
No,
glad
no,
that
right.
Kabir
You're absolutely
put the
correct.
film, made people aware of this story because nobody knows
Mhm.
about it.
Right. And tell the story in a very authentic way, in an entertaining
Authentic.
way.
And I think that's where his documentary skill set comes in because documentary filmmaking is authenticity, right? And then you're trying to work with the actors at the same time. So it's a fine balance and it shows very, 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 very nicely. Um,
Right.
how did your journey start? Why did you want to become a production designer? What was the catalyst?
Oh, okay. So it's a simple story. It's not a story. It's a simple thing. I
It's a
finished my
story.
architecture from JJ
Yeah.
College of Architecture, and then after doing your degree, you have to do a professional practice somewhere. So I went to Delhi. Uh, I was in Bombay studying, and then after 5 years, I went to Delhi to work for this thing. for a intern, work as an intern.
Mm,
So over there, I found a person, and that person, my brother was from Jamia Millia Islamia. He was a director and he used to make documentaries, right?
mm,
So he was making a film called Architectural Heritage of India for BBC Channel 4. Okay. So when he was making that film, I got interested in that. So I was doing my intern also and I was doing this also. So I started working with him and I worked on two projects. One was for Jaipur and one was for Agra. Okay. So
mm,
it was never accomplished, like that project left in between and those things happened. But I got interested in, you know, in camera, see through the camera how the world looks. And then after that, I came back to Bombay and I directly started doing set designing for United Television. So I worked for someone, I had worked on a mega series. That was a period of mega series in 97, 98, 1997, 98. So a lot of
mm,
mega series used to come. Initially, it was 13 episode, 26 episode, but this mega serial was some 200, 300, 500 episodes. So I worked on that. And that's how I got from architecture to, filmmaking. And from there, I started MTV, Channel V, advertisements, and then feature
mm.
films.
Nice.
So,
You mentioned mega series. I was reminded of one series. I've never seen an Indian series. Like normally, like if I was used to watch as a kid, were like Pakistani dramas.
mm,
But there was one series that I watched with my mom. I don't know how many episodes it had, but I know we
mhm.
watched 82 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Which was
it
it?
was called Amanat. The one he had like 6 or 7 daughters, and he was a single dad, and it was like one problem another after another after another. And I
What's the
think
name
about
of the
like
play?
Amanat.
What? Amanat. Okay, okay.
I
I
think
don't
that's what it
remember.
was called. I think that's what it was called. You know
Mm.
Gracie Singh from um Munna Bhai, the first Munna Bhai?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
She was in it.
Oh, okay.
It was around that. It was before that. I think she got picked into Munna Bhai because of that, because it was a very popular series.
Okay, okay.
So, but anyways, I mean, it just triggered a memory. Um, I want to say among all the stuff that you have done, 83 is my favorite.
Oh,
And I don't know
thank
if it's because of cricket or what, but it, it is really really well done. And I to work at Lord's, and to be part of such an amazing story. I mean, it's an amazing story. It's an amazing
Yeah,
story, and
yeah,
I really really enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's obviously a period piece,
Right.
so your work it stands out. What's next for you? Anything interesting coming up that you can talk about?
Uh, right now, there is nothing interesting. Actually, I'm doing some small projects, but I think Kabir is starting something. So I'm probably wait for that. So nothing challenging right now. I was working from last 2 years. So I was taking a break. So I'm on that zone right now,
Good.
taking break,
That's
waiting for
awesome.
I'm going to release. So nothing in this thing. There's a lot of talks going on, but nothing that I can mention it here.
Yeah, no, I know how that works. Completely understandable. Is there a particular film that you like in terms of production design, anywhere in the world? It could be Hollywood, it could be India, it could be South Korean.
Yeah, I would like to say, to give the Indian context, I like Gandhi very much. Uh,
Oh, it's an amazing
you
movie.
know, yeah, directed by Richard Attenborough because it has a
Yeah.
lot of Indian. I have seen all that things. I have loved Gandhi. I have read a lot of things about Gandhi, so I can relate with that movie. And in Chandu Champion, where we have used Akhada and the people with white dresses, so it comes from actually there. You
You
know,
know, it's so funny you mentioned that because when you were talking about the white dresses earlier,
yeah, yeah,
I was thinking about Gandhi, the movie,
right,
because there was a
right, right.
lot of white because that's what he wore too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, that is a great film. I
Right,
gotta
right.
see that
So
again. It's been a long time.
yeah, I don't know when it got released in 1983 or 84. I must be in fifth
82,
or sixth standard. 82,
82.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was in fourth, fifth standard. I went with my parents to see that movie, and I remember I was there is a last scene where Pandit Nehru, immersed Mahatma Gandhi's ashes into the
Mm-hmm.
Ganges. And
Hmm.
then there is Hari Prasad Chaurasia and their music, background music, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye with sitar. So that, and the flute. So that is very much printed in my mind. So I would say that movie, that movie, that management, that designing, and that authentic look which they have given. The saris for the women, uh, for the villagers, exact like it was all costume drama. I can't say that this set piece is nice, this is nice, but it was all
No,
locations and all. But the production design doesn't mean that you're designing something on the paper and executing it.
yeah,
It's about the look of the film.
yeah.
The set designing is secondary, tertiary, probably. So it's about
I
it should look authentic.
No, for sure. And with Gandhi, I think if there's one scene that really stands out for me is during that same scene that you talked about, the flute and the music. For me,
Yeah,
it's his. There's a dialogue that he talks about. He's like, there have been murderers and tyrants, but in the end, the love always prevails. Think of it always. That whole line is he says it during that time too. That the ending scene, which is really really powerful, and it holds true. Sadly, to this day, and it probably will
yeah.
because the world is a messy place.
World has always
Also,
been like that.
no, I know people think it's really bad, but I think because of media, it's bad, but it always will be bad. Unfortunately, that's just the way
Yeah,
human
it's how
nature
we
is.
see it, at what all different stages of our age our perspective changes. So we
100%.
think कि आजकल बहुत
100%.
खराब हो गया, but it is getting better, I think, after World War I, World War II, slavery before that, then
Yeah.
independence, and then I think it is getting better. You can
I
walk in the
think
streets daily.
I I I agree with you to a certain extent, but I think it's also subjective, right? Somebody who's going through something, for them, the
Right,
world is a
that's true. That's
terrible
true.
place too, right?
It's a big
But I
world.
agree with you overall. Like we have evolved a lot.
Right.
Listen, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. I would love to chat with you again about some of your past work if you're ever up for it, like PK, Three Idiots, or a bunch of other
Yeah, yeah,
stuff,
sure, sure.
83. I'd
Anytime.
love to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Nice
your
talking
work.
to you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Pleasure is
very
all
much.
mine. And
Thank you for
thank you
liking the
for,
movie.
well, I mean, it's, I'm just amazed that, I'm just trying to find the right word. There's so many stories like that out there from all over the world that we don't
Right.
know about, and it's just good to see. There's no better form than cinema, not because I'm in the same world, but just truly,
Right, yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no better form than cinema to preserve history, and I'm glad that it's being done in like all
Right.
across the world, and it needs to be done more.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.